Now, a report by the Democratic Governance Rights Unit says Constitutional Court face unprecedented political pressure from former President Jacob Zuma in 2021. This report suggests that this is an indication of a fearless and independent judiciary. Senior Researcher Chris Oxtoby joining us this afternoon to further unpack this. And let me point out that this report, the Democratic Governance Rights Unit, is a applied research unit based at the Department of Public Law at the University of Cape Town. Good afternoon, and thank you very much for your time, Chris. Very interesting report, research. Just share with us, because reading about it, I haven't read the report, obviously, but reading about it, it seems like you're looking at not just the judiciary system in South Africa, but elsewhere in Southern Africa.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. So the report looks at the judiciary and how it's functioning, what challenges it's facing across three countries, South Africa, Malawi and Namibia. And there is also some of the context. We look at some public opinion data from across the continent as a whole, but the primary focus of the research is indeed on those three Southern African countries.
Okay, I mean, you found that the judiciary in South Africa has faced unprecedented political pressure, but there's also been a lot of commentary by all kinds of pundits, for example, on some key decisions coming out of the Apex Court, Constitutional Court, where people now start debating the majority view versus the minority view of the bench. Meanwhile, there's one decision that's been made.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, I think that particular section of the report, we were trying to look at some of the most significant judgments that came out of the judiciaries in the three countries we studied. And in this time period, this is between about 2019 to 2021, there have obviously been some very significant judgments throughout the region. I mean, even outside of the South African cases you referred to, of course. In this time period, we had the Malawian courts overturning a presidential election there, which was a remarkable and unprecedented series of cases there. And of course, for South Africa, we had the judgments of the Constitutional Court in what we described as this trilogy of the court battles between the State Capture Commission and the former president. And I think when one looks back on it and reflects back to that time period last year, it reminds one just how intense the pressure was on the court, and just how difficult the circumstances at the time were around the July 2021 unrest. And so I think the key point that we were trying to make there is that the Constitutional Court really held firm, and I think was not swayed by that pressure that it was under. And as you say, there continues to be controversy and dispute about those judgments, which I think is to be expected in the circumstances.
Yeah,
but I think our general takeaway from the report.
Yeah, sorry, your general takeaway.
Yes,
yeah, your general takeaway.
I was just going to say that the general takeaway is I think that we've got a lot to be proud and optimistic about. In terms of how the judiciary is doing, despite some very serious challenges that it faces.
Yeah, I mean, in this decision, the Concord, I seem to remember on where it compelled the former President Jacob Zuma to appear before the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture. I mean, it made it very clear that this is a republic of laws where the Constitution is supreme, and that you can't have it any other way, and no one is above the law, no matter what.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a very important statement of principle by the court. Of course, we know that things in practice didn't work quite that simply, and there was the delay in the former president, in fact, being sentenced to prison for contempt of court, and then the subsequent release on medical parole, which are ongoing controversies. But I think as a question of pure principle in terms of the jurisprudence of the courts, I think they set out some really important principles that will continue to guide our law in the future.
How are we stacking up compared to our neighbors, Namibia and Malawi, for example?
I think generally we're stacking up well. I think there are some respects where there are things that we can learn from our neighbours. There are some respects where we stack up well. I think of the three, maybe Namibia is having the smoothest ride, although there are also challenges there. I think there are certain issues that are worth looking at as questions
one of them
to be reformed.
Could it be trust? Yeah, could it be trust in the judiciary? How are we doing? Do South Africans trust our judiciary to be independent, for example? Because sometimes you hear people complaining that it's only for those who've got money that they can use the judiciary system. If you're poor in South Africa, you're done for. There's no justice for you.
So that's a very interesting point, and in fact, one of the things that came out from our survey of people who are using the courts. So just to make that clear, that much of the findings is based on, particularly on the views of litigants and legal professionals who are litigating in the courts. And whilst they generally were quite positive about equal treatment for people along a lot of dimensions, including race and gender, the one issue where there was a lot of people felt that people were not treated equally was in fact poverty and wealth. So I think that is something that we need to look at quite seriously and try and understand what exactly is driving that and what can be done about it for the future.
Okay, Chris Oxtoby, thank you very much. Of course, he's a senior researcher of the Democratic Governance and Rights Unit that's linked to the Public Law Department, the University of Cape Town. Thank you for your time, sharing some of the insights that have come out from the survey about the state of the judiciary in South Africa, and of course looking at two of the neighboring countries in our region, being Namibia and Malawi as well.